Queensland Police have issued an urgent warning about a mystery zombie drug that's left 8 people in hospital. Let's go live to Nine's Emily Prain. Emily, what more do we know about this drug called Flacker?
Well, not a great deal, Natalia, except that we know that it is extremely lethal. In fact, it's been dubbed the scariest kind of drug there is in the United States, and it somehow found its way to Australian shores. It was bought right here in the nightclub precinct in Surfers Paradise by 2 separate groups of partygoers on Friday night. Now, paramedics were called to treat 3 Victorian football players who were hallucinating, yelling, jumping on furniture after taking this drug. In fact, one of them stopped breathing and was rushed to hospital. Then came the second call to a house party at Mermaid Waters. Another 5 people had taken the same drug and were displaying the same sort of reaction, the hallucinating, the yelling. They were running up and down streets and jumping into nearby canals. Now, we understand that all 8 still remain in the Gold Coast University Hospital, 1 in an induced coma. Now, this really couldn't come at a more worrying time. Just next month, thousands of Year 12 school leavers will be descending on the Gold Coast for schoolies celebrations. So no doubt police will now be out in force trying to get this drug, whatever it is, off our streets. Natalia?
Yeah, it's really concerning, Emily. Thank you.
We get dressed up, we have shots with friends, we mingle, we do makeup, we have fun. We do that for a little while. 6 o'clock rolls around, once it gets dark in Manhattan, we come out. We go play in the streets, come after you.
All right, zombies, how you doing?
I love Halloween, my favorite holiday. There's nothing better than, bloody yourself up and be a disgusting, scary zombie. Plus, it makes people's day, gives them a little bit of shock value to their everyday lives. I mean, who would expect to see, a zombie on a random day like this? It's all good fun.
And in other disturbing news, the United Church of Canada has among its clergy a minister who is a self-proclaimed atheist. I repeat, a minister who is now an atheist. Therefore, the church is moving for her defrocking. They are recommending that she be defrocked. This minister goes by the name of Greta Vosper, and she says that she does not believe in the God called God, capital G-O-D. She says that using that word gets in the way of sharing what she wants to share. She believes that the Bible is mythology and denies that Jesus is the Son of God.
The Palestinian leadership has rejected Israeli criticism over a UNESCO resolution that denies any Jewish historic connection to the Al-Aqsa Mosque and Al-Barak Wall in Jerusalem, Al-Quds. Palestinian officials have urged UNESCO to implement the will of its member states. The resolution that was highly praised by the Palestinians condemns Israel as an occupying power and calls for protecting the Palestinian cultural heritage and the distinctive character of East Jerusalem, Al-Quds.
Israel is trying to reframe international law, and Israel is trying to reframe the whole story. And I think, Israel up against international consensus is not going to be easy for Israel. And this is not about Israel. This is about international legality and legitimacy. And international law is very clear. Jerusalem is under military occupation, the Israeli military occupation.
Israel has already suspended ties with UNESCO following the resolution. Whether the resolution is recognized by Israel or not, Palestinians say it's a new victory that would contribute to their political battle in defending their sanctities and preserving the Al-Aqsa Mosque and its Islamic identity.
John chapter 2, verse 13. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Haram al-Sharif courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords and drove all from the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Haram al-Sharif courts, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. Kings chapter 6 verse 1. In the 480th year after the Israelites came out of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, in the 2nd month, he began to build the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Ahram al-Sharif of the Lord.
TV screens to social media to the classrooms at Garfield High. Talk about racial injustices and Black Lives Matter. But the conversation sparked again after threats of violence were made at John Muir Elementary School, where the group Black Men United planned to wear Black Lives Matter t-shirts and greet students.
And that's what really inspired me the most, was when students asked, when are Hamilton teachers going to do this?
This is the response. Many Seattle public schools teachers will wear Black Lives Matter shirts all next week. And they're not just wearing t-shirts, they're changing the curriculum and dialogue in the classroom.
Talking about lessons in their classrooms that relate to institutional racism.
Even providing resources and books to help teachers facilitate the conversations. But not everyone agrees with the method. After posting this story on my social media, Mike Espinoza writes, "Enough. All lives matter. Period."
Tensions over this heated election season reached a boiling point in North Carolina. Somebody threw a firebomb through a window at a state Republican Party office. North Carolina's governor is calling it an attack on our democracy.
So you are in the Northtown area?
Deborah Tamargo's put in a lot of hours making phone calls and doing everything she can, hoping to persuade voters. She calls the firebombing of a North Carolina GOP office devastating, but doesn't see it as a reaction to some of the controversy in Donald Trump's campaign.
And this was obviously not an intent to kill anyone, but obviously an intent to deter the volunteers from getting out the vote.
Tamargo says there has been some concern of violence sparking as voting begins, but GOP leaders insist the attack in North Carolina won't stop efforts of countless campaign workers here.
We will not be deterred, distracted. You know, those things are like the potholes. You just kind of go through them, you accept them.
But she has talked with staffers and volunteers about their personal safety, especially since many of them are here working around the clock in the final days before the election.
I did ask the offices today if they could just increase their security measures by just being more alert. No one goes outside alone after dark.
And now U.S. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump has doubled down on his claim that the election is rigged against him, even as his allies try to moderate his comments. Trump tweeted twice on Sunday claiming that the presidential election is being rigged by the media and at many polling stations. This claim came just hours after his running mate Mike Pence tried to play down his previous accusations. Over the past several days, Trump's made a series of similar remarks questioning the fairness of the U.S. election. Governor Pence said that Trump's comments stemmed from his fatigue with the national media bias against him and that he'd accept the results of the November 8th vote.
Vladimir Putin on Sunday accused the United States of sacrificing good relations with Russia in order to distract voters from domestic problems, but said he was hopeful ties could be restored after the presidential election. The Russian president made a string of combative comments to reporters, but at the same time assured American friends and partners that he had no intention of influencing the outcome of the race for the White House. According to the TASS news agency, Putin said, "We don't know for sure how it will be after the elections. We don't know whether Donald Trump will be implementing his intentions, how far he will go in cooperating with us, or whether Mrs. Clinton, if she becomes president, will implement her threats and her harsh rhetoric about Russia. She may correct her position too. All of it is still unknown to us."
Sending a clear message to the state government. Hundreds of people rally outside Parliament House furious at the idea of becoming Australia's and the world's dumping ground for nuclear waste.
I really don't understand how anybody could consider such a dangerous proposal.
2 separate dumps are being proposed. The federal government has shortlisted a site near Hawker in the state's north to store low-level waste, while the state government is considering hosting the world's first high-level dump.
The local traditional owners are very clear. They say it's all poison and they don't want it on their land.
Indigenous leaders from around the state fearing for their people's future on the anniversary of the atomic blasts at Emu Field 63 years ago.
The people died, people were very impacted by in that they've got scars on their skins because of the skin radiation, and there's blindness. We don't want and we're not interested in being the national or international waste dump.
Nobody, not even the government, knows what destruction could be caused from this.
While the federal and state governments still haven't decided where the dumps might be built, they say community support is needed before either proposal goes ahead. But with a chorus of opposition growing and more protests planned, the state's nuclear future remains unclear.
The promise of doomsday did not come to fruition in the battle for Dabiq. The small village in northern Syria, mentioned in the Hadith as the site of an apocalyptic battle between Muslims and infidels, has been recaptured from ISIL after a short assault by Turkey-backed Syrian rebels. Fighters also took neighbouring Suran with the help of Turkish tanks and warplanes. However, ISIL seemed to backtrack on Dabiq's symbolism, saying this battle was not the one described in the prophecy. It was rumoured that over 1,000 ISIL fighters had been deployed to defend Dabiq, although Turkish military sources say it is likely the jihadist group has mostly left the area.
The battle to recapture the Iraqi city of Mosul, the capital of ISIL's so-called caliphate, has begun. The long-awaited assault is being carried out by Kurdish Peshmerga, Iraqi government and allied forces backed by a US-led coalition. Iraq's Prime Minister announced the start of the operation on television. He said, "I announced today the start of this heroic operation to seek the liberation from the oppression and terror of Daesh. We will meet soon in Mosul to celebrate its salvation. The main troops which are participating in this operation are the Iraqi army and police forces, and only they will enter the city of Mosul to liberate it." Mosul is ISIL's last major stronghold in Iraq, and it's been under the jihadist control since June 2014. Shortly before the assault, the Iraqi army dropped tens of thousands of leaflets over Mosul, warning residents of the imminent offensive and assuring them that the advancing army units would not target civilians. However, the UN has warned that the humanitarian impact could be enormous and affect up to 1.2 million people.
Workers resumed to erect a controversial wall aimed at stopping migrants from illegally entering the Calais ferry terminal. 4-metre-high cement panels are being put up. Despite opposition from Calais' mayor, the local prefecture approved the €2.7 million project funded by the UK. The building work comes as France prepares to dismantle the so-called jungle migrant camp in the port, something it's vowed to do by the end of the year.
Stuck in Tijuana, Mexico along the U.S. border, they have nowhere to go. Thousands of Haitians looking for asylum in the U.S., most of them here after traveling months through jungles and mountains. A surge this year in asylum seekers is partly from concerns that a Donald Trump presidency would close the border. But the situation was aggravated after Hurricane Matthew hit, killing some 1,000 Haitians. Now, the havoc of the storm only strengthens their resolve to make it to the U.S. Reverend Patrick Murphy heads Tijuana's largest migrant shelter.
At first, they were coming from all over the world, small groups and large groups, including displaced Mexicans. But recently, we are talking more than 90% who arrive who are Haitian and 10% Africans, and there is no end.
The U.S. ended this year special protections for Haitian asylum seekers that dated to Haiti's devastating 2010 earthquake. That means these Haitians are much more likely to be deported home if they cross the border. Activists are pressuring the administration of President Barack Obama to reverse the new rules, but thousands of Haitians continue to amass along the Tijuana border with no place to call home.
As the remnants of a potentially apocalyptic typhoon began to fizzle out, thousands of residents in the Pacific Northwest remained without power Sunday. In order to restore power lines and remove dozens of downed trees to clear roads that the storm had damaged over the past 2 days, emergency crews in Oregon and Washington worked through the night. Meteorologists still expected rain and wind gusts as high as 30 miles per hour throughout Sunday. Conditions were not expected to be as bad as predicted. The storm was originally forecast to be one of the worst in recent history.
Nghìn phương tiện bị chết máy dọc đường. Sáng nay, nước lũ dâng cao khiến một em học sinh. Trong đó có những xã ngập sâu từ nhiều địa bàn lớn Hà Tĩnh, Hương Sơn, thị xã Kỳ Anh. Cũng trong sáng nay đã có trên 60.000 học sinh. Nước lũ Điện Trì, 12 người chết và mất tích, hàng chục người bị thương. Nước trên các sông lên nhanh và vượt báo động 3.
Now, the Philippines dealing with Typhoon Sakura after it made landfall on Luzon Island earlier today. The typhoon, also called Karen in the Philippines, forced Manila officials to have to cancel flights in and out of the city. They fear it could be the most damaging storm to hit the country so far this year. Winds up to 130 miles per hour. Officials are worried that this next typhoon that's about to hit could hit the country's most populated areas.
De manera sorpresiva, la madrugada de este 14 de octubre, el embalse de la hidroeléctrica mostró un comportamiento extraño. El agua se puso de color rojo. Al principio, vecinos indicaron que posiblemente se trataba de pintura.
Cold and flu season is approaching, so it's time to stock up on vitamin C. But you might be in trouble if your main source is orange juice. Florida is having one of the worst orange harvesting seasons in the state's history thanks to hurricanes and bad weather. The U.S. Department of Agriculture predicts the Sunshine State will only produce 70 million boxes of oranges this year, and that's a pretty significant drop from last year's reported 81.6 million. Florida's orange industry hit an all-time peak in 1998, but since then, numbers haven't been so great, and part of that is because of Huanglongbing. Huanglongbing is a citrus disease that orange trees catch from Asian citrus psyllids. When the bug bites the plant, bacteria overtakes and kills them. The disease was first detected in Florida in 2005. Since then, orange production has mostly gone down. And this year, hurricanes have reportedly spread the pathogen across the state. So rather than hiking up prices to make up for a revenue deficiency, orange producers are having to get creative. Brands like Tropicana and Minute Maid are reportedly making cartons smaller and mixing orange juice with other fruits and water.